Today's lesson is fish filleting, which later on will come the smoking of the fish. And we've just brought in 3 nice rainbow trout, so here, how about you show them the fish? So we're just going to do one today to show you how it, and I'll do the rest, and then we'll do the smoking process later. So, I mean, I like to start off by, you always need somewhere to grip that you're not going to cut your hands, so I like to make a back incision towards the tail first. Somewhere that you can hold on. And then you want to do a rocking motion with this because the spine is through the middle here and a lot of the flesh is on the inside. So I was trying to explain earlier about the spine of the fish, and most of the meat is on either side of that spine, and the spine is pretty high at the center line. So you want to do a rocking motion with your blade going, when you're on your downstroke, you want to go down in the direction towards down and away from yourself. And then when you're coming back towards yourself with the cut, you want to be able to be on the other side of the spine, sloping down from yourself. So it's a rocking motion back and forth. You don't have to be fast to be doing this, so you can take your time to get the most meat you can possible. I just like filleting my fish because I don't really like bones in my smoked fish, so I like to do it this way and prepare it that way. So you want to be on the top side of all the fins, rocking back and forth, just working very slowly back and forth. And you can feel that spine with the knife. You don't want to be cutting into the spine, you want to be right on top of it. So now we've got our first piece here. We're just going to flip the fish over and do the same backstroke of the tail, just so I have somewhere to hold on to. And then coming through again, just rocking motion, nice and slow, just riding on top of the spine. Just get on top of that fin there, don't want to be cutting into it.
And this can be done with all kinds of fish, can it, Adam?
All the fish are different bone structure, but most of them are the same. It's definitely good to practice with smaller fish. If you get good with smaller fish, you can pretty much do most fish. So I like to, that's the way I learned, was on small trout. You can really hone in your skills, and if you mess it up, it's not too big of a deal. You're not wasting a ton of meat. So I definitely recommend smaller fish, and you'll get a lot better doing those, and then the big fish will just be a lot easier to do. So now that we have their 2 halves, I'm going to take off the rib cages of both. So we'll just do this one here to show you. So here on top of the spine, you can still see and feel that there's still some bones here. So we're going to try and just take all those bones that you see running vertically like this off, and after that process, then they're ready to go. So I like to just use the thin tip of your blade, trying just to get started underneath it, and you just want to peel it back enough till you can get your fingers under there and peel it back slowly. Trying to keep it very flat. You don't want to cut too much of the meat off on this part. So you just slowly work at it and peel it back with your fingers, and just try to get that blade, the tip of the blade, underneath the rib cage, just to make small cuts and work away that rib cage.
And this trout was already gutted. And then you started the fillet process.
Yeah, I always recommend cleaning your fish over the water, over the boat. It's probably the best way, and keep them the freshest for when you're bringing them in.
And again, we're working on rainbow trout, so you can see it here in the bucket how beautiful it is with all its colors and freshness. And then
so there's that rib cage there.
Yeah.
So now we're left with this nice piece of fish. And now I like to cut it in chunks for the smoker. Just nice bite-sized snacks. They will shrink, so you just definitely want to make them a decent size. If you think it's too big, it'll probably shrink up more than you think. It's just one fillet of the 3, but you can see that we got a nice 6 pieces out of just one side of the fish. So I'm just going to work on this other one, cleaning its rib cage off, and do the other 3 and come back to you when we start doing the brining process before doing the smoking process.
So before we go to the next segment, can we just ask you what you love about smoking fish for the youth out there? Like, is it something that's going to be really difficult to do, or can we just practice with our elders?
I think it depends what kind of fish you like. I mean, a lot of people like fresh fish, but it's a good way to preserve it and make good snacks. I mean, this stuff will last if you put it in proper paper. It will last dry for a couple of weeks, which is really, really nice. So you don't really lose that freshness, especially if you're taking them out the same day and smoking them. You keep a lot of that good nutrition in the fish. So smoking is definitely a good way to preserve and make your fish last a lot longer than just a couple days or waste ice in your coolers.
Thanks, Adam. We'll look forward to the next stage.
Alrighty then, you can see that I've cut all the pieces that I need. I like to give them a little rinse before going in there just to wash off any other guts or anything that was left on there. So I just rinse them off, and then I put them in these pans. These are the pans that I use for brining. So I like to lay them skin side down on here, and then that's where our brining mixture will be going on top. So all our spices that these are going to soak in, and before they go into the smoker. I'm not sure it gives off brining them. It really soaks into the fish and makes them more candy-like. And they don't taste much like fish once they're done. Just deliciousness.
Yes, everybody says that they are a delicious snack, and I think what happens is once you have a piece of this beautiful smoked rainbow trout, you kind of crave it, you know, like your body gets used to the purity of the fish and the nice taste. So it is a delightful treat, and many of you may have grandmas and grandpas, elders that remember doing this themselves, and it's a bit more of a modern way to do it. But we are working steadily outdoors. We live off-grid, so we collect rainwater, so the water that Adam's actually using is rainwater filtered, and we will be smoking outside. So as Adam is doing that, I'll just show you the smoke pit over there. You can see the sweat house as well as our setup for skinning. So here we are again, and the pan is getting fuller and fuller. But as Adam was saying, you know, you can start out with these big chunks and they look very big, but they shrink down a lot. So do you think out of 3 trouts you'll get 2 pans worth?
It'll be close. I usually like to fill the smoker. It just, anytime you're using the wood chip to smoke it, you definitely want to use up as much of that as you can, so I like to fill it. This is about only a quarter of what the smoker could probably take, so 3 fish wasn't too bad, but it wasn't a huge haul of fish either.
Here we are again, Adam.
Alrighty, so now we have our fish pieces in these trays, somewhere that the brining can take place. So I'll show you a little bit of the recipe. It's more of a, I'll show you the base of it. You can add really whatever spice you would like to it, depending on what you like. But the ratio for the brine for me is a dry brine. A lot of people do liquid brines. This is a dry brine. I find that the ingredients mostly melt anyways, and they come almost like a liquid. So my recipe is 2-to-1 sugar, so I use brown sugar. So it'd be 2 cups of brown sugar, to the 1 cup of salt.
So let's repeat that again. 2 cups of brown sugar and a whole cup of salt.
Yeah.
Is that kind
That
of...
is the big part of brining and smoking fish, is that cures the fish, and that's what makes it preserve so long. So you definitely need that in your brine, and then I add whatever other spices that I like to make it a little different than the last batch.
So what was that you just did?
Secret.
A secret? Come on. It looks like black pepper. And what are the other things? Just herbs of your choice. And there's no real measuring, is there, Adam?
No, every different, you just kind of get to know your brining process, but as long as you have the 2 bases of sugar and salt, you can brine anything you like. I just like to spice it up a little different, just a little different taste. Alright, once that's mixed in there good, you're going to want to completely coat the fish in the brining process. Both sides. So wherever you see there's a bit of fish poking up, just put a little extra there. Now this process I usually, depending on what kind of fish it is, these are quite small fish, so they're not as thick as some pieces might be, so their brining process will probably take 3 to 4 hours. Obviously the more you brine, the more flavor there will be in the fish, so the more hours you put into it. I recommend usually just doing this before night and then leaving them overnight and doing your smoking process the next day.
That is a lot of sugar and salt. but that's probably what makes them so delicious. Any other tips for this process here?
No, this is one of the easier processes. You can kind of modify it to whatever you like, but I find dry brining is the best way to do it. It hardens up the fish quite a bit in the smoker. Some of the liquid brines can really make it quite mushy and kind of hard to smoke. So these I like a lot, and by the end of it you'll see it's mostly just makes a syrup out of it anyways. The fish moisture just eats up the sugar and salt and it becomes more of a liquid.
Great stuff, so we'll see you after nightfall.
Alrighty, so we're back with the fish smoking. This is my homemade smoker that I've made out of a cast iron stove. I've got 3 racks in there and I use this chip here. I've used all the flavors, but I really like the cherry the best. So I put these chips in the bottom of the layer and then those slowly cook and release smoke into the oven. So yeah, just throw them in like that. We'll get a bit more in there.
So is that about 1/4 of the bag, or how much would that be?
Well, it depends on your smoker. I doubt anyone will have a smoker like this, so it's really based on what your smoker is.
And close it all up. This old iron oven is probably 100 years old or more. Sits out here.
So you can see around the back here.
Yeah.
You get the coals going, and then once those coals are ready, they get shoved under there. This pit's been dug based on this design, so there's a small chute for the coals underneath. And this is where you start the other coals and just keep feeding it. And just keep adding chip. And 3 to 4 hours, you should be done, and we will have smoked fish.
All right. So if we did not have this formal smoker, any suggestions?
I mean, smokers from the store are probably pretty expensive. You can see that I did this one for free, so you just need something that'll heat up and not be too hot and cook the fish. You just want it to burn the smoke itself, or sorry, the chip itself. So something cast would be very good to use, and using fire with the logs is a good way, but I mean electronic ones obviously regulated a lot easier, but again very expensive. So
Yeah. So my thoughts and ideas, Adam, were that we should always look on Kijiji for people who are trying to get rid of an old cast iron stove out of a cabin, let's say, and we just keep making requests on the internet to see who has one. And this one, as Adam said, came from our old cabin, and then there's ones from the local dump. So how many times would you open that stove to take a look?
no, I don't. It's only to add more chip, because once you see that there's no more smoke going, you need to add more chip.
Okay. Any other tips? Like, have you tried some of the fish that you've already smoked and the taste of that? Are you pleased with that?
Of course, that's why I do it all the time.